So the next part of the presentation is on so it's on System C, what's likely to go into System C4. So let me give you just 2 seconds introduction on that, and thank you very much to Laurent, who's just sent me this list just in time. So these are the list of things that the Language Working Group is currently aware of being scheduled, if you will, to go into the next release of System C, System C4, as we're currently calling it. As you might be aware, we suggested in a System C Evolution Day a couple of years ago that we would try to stick to a much tighter timescale. So we're doing our best to do that. And kind of the finger in the air estimation about this would be in the next, well, it's not going to be this year, but hopefully next year or soon after, we would have a release of System C4. So hopefully not that far away, but that means that us as a community haven't got a huge amount of time to get things on the train, as it were, to arrive in System C4. So these are the things which are currently scheduled, and of them, the top two we're going to talk about today. I've listed the other ones there. If you have ideas about things that you want to see in the next release of System C4, really now is the time to come forward and make those suggestions to the Language Working Group. You can do that directly. You can do that via email to any one of us. You can do that on GitHub using issues. Frankly, I'm not sure that we care too much about how you do that, so long as it gets done pretty quickly. So those are the things that are there at the moment. If you want more details on more about those, then please be in touch. I'm going to talk as quickly as I can about the top one of those, and then Carsten's going to give you a little bit of an explanation about the second one of those. So,
Mark, quick refinement. As far as I know, the working group is considering this list and needs to still do the prioritization, right? So these are not yet scheduled, but these is the current list which is being discussed.
Exactly.
And we need to still fine tune, okay, is it feasible or not in the ambitious timeline you just mentioned? And it might well be that some items are pushed to the second iteration or third iteration, depending on the feasibility. But that's open for discussion.
Some of these are very loosely defined, like thread safety discussion.
Indeed.
I would love to see that in the standard chapters. Thread safety discussion. No. Yeah. And then just finished. Easy.
Right. So I'm going to talk about the reporting API, so-called, and what it's for. And apparently I'm doing it because apparently it's going to be more entertaining than if I does it. So I'll do my best to be entertaining. So first up, why? The reason why is because in the SystemC Common Practices group, we've been trying to take in IP or an IP, just different ways of doing things from different people. And the issue there is that in almost all cases, from the simple to the complex, every single thing that we've looked at has got some sort of different reporting mechanism in it. And we've got to the point of thinking, well, if we're going to solve that, if we're going to ever be able to work together on a common set of code, then we're going to have a common reporting mechanism. So there is now one in the SystemC Common Practices, and this is what is kind of being built here. But the thought is that it's so fundamental and everybody is so annoyed with the current SystemC SC report mechanism that it's about time we had something a bit better that everybody wants to use rather than reinventing the wheel every time. So what do we need? A lot of people would like to be able to use like std format, and this is kind of vaguely thought that it's reasonable that in System C4 we'd likely move to C++20, and in C++20 you get for free the std format mechanism, which is kind of nice. But on the other hand, there are people who grew up in a world where they were using streams and would like to use streams for their output. So we kind of want to be able to support both. We obviously want to be able to be extremely efficient, and I'll come on to that in a second. The other thing is, the whole purpose of this effectively is to be able to switch logging on and off in a reasonably sensible fashion. Now, there's a lot of discussion about how that should be done, and right now you're probably aware that CCI has been standardized for configurable parameters, but it's not part of the SystemC, as it were, language right now. So we want to stay kind of reasonably independent of that, though we want to connect directly to it and make it easy to use if that's the configuration mechanism that you want to use. So the last of these bullet points is kind of about independence, and that's a big topic of its own right. Let me scoot over that for the time being. So I'm sorry, TLM Game Boy. Yeah, I know it's awful. I should probably kill myself now. I'll go away and do that. I'll try not to make a mess. But yeah, I'm not sure we know of any other way of doing this apart from using a macro, which means on our, what was it, 900 macros, we're going to add a whole bunch more. And maybe we can do a bit better, and maybe we can reduce the number of macros, but right now the implementation of this has got a bundle of macros. But at least we're going to provide some common way of being able to just have a nice little log that you can then switch on and off, and you get the line number and you get the file that it's in, and so on and so forth. Okay, glorious. So that's what it's going to do. The names, oh my God, names are so hard. I can't believe how hard names are. And in this particular case, they just seem to be really, really, really annoyingly hard. So you might want to use sclog, but of course, there's already something in SystemC called sclog. Did you mention that macros pollute the global namespace? Yeah, they do, don't they? And it's a really annoying thing. The other thing which is really annoying in SystemC is that there's a low, medium, and high level of verbosity. And you might think that if you were to log something like sclog low, for instance, you might think that that would be kind of printed out not very often, but actually it's the opposite of what you expect. So these verbosity names are probably not particularly helpful when it comes to actually identifying the level at which you want to log things, unfortunately. So the proposed names right now are that we'd have something like, I thought that was green, never mind, critical, warn, info, debug, and trace. And guess what? Those are the names that are used by an awful lot of things like SpDlog, if you are aware of that library. And by the way, we've got an implementation where it uses SpDlog underneath. So the plan would be that you'd have something like, actually, there's a change, never mind. Something like log warn, and you'd give it a warning, or log info. Now, the log bit, the log, that EG log bit there, that's the bit that's the nasty, tricky name. Not quite sure what that should be yet. And we're kind of in the working group talking about what those names should be. Maybe it's just going to be as easy as SC_warn, for instance, but there are issues with name conflicts. Okay, that's fine. What can go inside the brackets? Well, we've got these magic macros. You can say log warn. I'm using log at the moment. As I say, that might change. Log warn, and that's just going to give you the default level of logging or reporting. You can say log and give it a name, in which case that name's going to be tagged along with the message that you send. And also that name will be looked up in a hash table to find out whether you want to log it or not. Then we've got a mechanism by which you can interact with that hash table, if you will, like, you know, set it dynamically. And then the final one is kind of interesting and leads to a piece of syntax which is really bizarre. You can define this thing called a logger, or actually I think we might call it a handle because it's probably a better name. And in this case, you would say that you want to send this message to this particular handle, and the handle would then determine whether or not the log should be reported or not, which is great. But the real benefit of this is that it's then really efficient, because it'll look up this handle directly in the current scope, and it will do it very efficiently. So that's how that's supposed to work. One slide on what it looks like. So you can say, here you go, here's a trace, there's my top model, and the answer is 42, and so on. So these are the various different ways that it might look. And by the way, this is defining this handle thing here. So that's currently the library as it stands. I know that I'm running close to being out of time, so I'm going to move extremely quickly. Where we are at the moment, there is there's a implementation of this in the SystemC Common Practices working group. So please join that. Please come and have a look. Please test it out. It's open source. It's on GitHub. You can go and have a look-see around and find out whether it works or not. And then the expectation is that it's going to move into the language working group very shortly. So that's where we are with logging. I'm aware that we're dangerously close to being out of time. So are there quick questions on that?
Yeah, hi Mark. I have one question regarding the levels, the different names of the let's say the tracing levels. I guess you discussed in the working group that you're now deviating from the UVM standard, right? Because
yes, we have indeed discussed where we are compared to UVM. And one of the things UVM does is allow you to define your own levels too. So you can just give a number like 437, and you can do that in this mechanism too. But we were trying to encapsulate kind of sensible levels of logging here. But yeah, you're right. Maybe one input would be, could we not align better with where UVM is? Is that what you were suggesting? Yeah.
Well, yeah, just at least that you are aware of this deviation now.
Well, definitely. Martin doesn't cease in discussing that.
The challenge, obviously, I think there's a lot of overlap, similarities between SystemC and UVM in terms of naming. One of the things we saw is that when you are entering error and fatal, there is often a simulation action associated to it, that the simulator should stop, or that the simulator should do some sort of exception handling. And that is actually the reason to start with completely new names, to avoid that people think if you throw an error that you actually stop the simulator. But this needs to be well documented, because this implicit expectation that logging is controlling your simulator, that is a bit of a legacy thing, and we need to find a way how to deal with that and how to get away with that, actually.
Yeah, I was more pointing to the, let's say, UVM low, UVM full, UVM high.
Yes, and I looked at those names and kind of eventually concluded that I would be very, as a user, I'd be very, very confused about what that meant in terms of logging these. And SystemC has got those low, medium, and high things as well.
Yes,
but they kind of. But Martin's point is really important, and something that I've probably failed to mention as much as I should have done. The expectation about this logging library is that there are no actions associated with the different logging levels. So if you say log critical, there is no expectation that that is going to exit the simulator or cause an error or whatever. It's just about, it'll check to see whether or not you're interested in having that reported. And if you are, it will report it. That's all it's going to do.
Yeah, clear. Thanks.